Mr. Speaker, I would like you to imagine if, when we passed a law in this chamber appropriating money or designating roads to be built in this state, that a contractor could force our municipalities or our state, using taxpayer dollars, after they build that road, to use it only for 26 cars to drive over it, or for 2 years to pass, whichever comes first, and then we'd have to rip it up and pay for it all over again. Now, I bet we can barely imagine that situation in most of the contexts where we use taxpayer dollars, because it would be such a colossal waste. But the truth is that our libraries are facing that exact situation with regard to ebooks and audiobooks right now. Every time they buy an ebook or an audiobook for their patrons, they are forced to accept a term that says that they may loan it out 26 times or for 2 years, whichever comes first, and then they have to buy it all over again, and they are already paying 4 or 5 times the market price for an individual who buys that same or audio book. And this is just one of a host of terms that have been imposed on our libraries in these contracts, including secrecy provisions, restrictions on interlibrary loan and other general library operations. These restrictions are wasting taxpayer dollars, and they are also interfering with our libraries' general operations and ability to serve their patrons. Now, why is this happening, you might ask? And that's because there is a loophole in our federal copyright law. When our libraries generally buy books, physical books, there's something called the first sale doctrine that says after that book is sold for the first time to the library can do whatever they want with it. They can transfer it to whomever they want as long as they don't make more copies of it. But the federal copyright law was written a long time ago, and it doesn't deal with ebooks and audiobooks. So when you buy an ebook or an audiobook, you're not buying a book, you're buying a contract. And that has allowed our publishers to impose these sorts of onerous terms on our libraries. You may ask, why don't we see these terms or these prices in our contracts for your audiobooks when we buy them online? And that is because the publishers know that if you or I went online to buy the latest James Patterson or other book we were interested in, and we saw these terms or these prices online, we would just move on, decide not to buy that ebook or audiobook that day. Our libraries don't have that option. The publishers have used the library's public service mission and their obligation to their patrons against them, to force the libraries to accept terms that waste taxpayer dollars, interfere with the operations of our libraries and other state agencies, and reduce the ability of these libraries to serve their patrons and the experience of our library patrons across the state. Now, what does this bill do about this problem? It prohibits the libraries which accept state funding from agreeing to these onerous terms that interfere with their operations and waste taxpayer dollars. And as a result, uses the collective bargaining power of libraries in this state to secure a better deal. Now, you may ask, how does this get by copyright law? It does that because it restricts the libraries and does not restrict the rights of any publisher to their copyrighted material or anything they want to do with it. You may ask, how does this impact freedom of contract? The answer is, it utilizes freedom of contract because these libraries are, for the most part, public agencies, and they utilize public dollars. So we are the user of freedom of contract in this situation. We are choosing how we want our libraries to contract. And you may ask, Connecticut is a small state. What happens if these publishers say, you know what, Connecticut Public Libraries, you won't agree to our terms, we just won't do business with you. Well, this is a situation that doesn't always happen in this chamber. We heard concerns from the other side of the aisle on this issue last year, and guess what? We listened. So we added a provision to this bill that I think makes it significantly different and significantly better than the bill we saw last year. And that provision says that Connecticut won't go it alone. Even if we pass this bill today, it will not become effective until other states with a combined population of 7 million people pass a substantially similar bill that does the same thing. And so Connecticut will not be left out in the cold. This bill passed out of the Planning and Development Committee unanimously. It passed out of the GAE Committee with bipartisan support. And I urge all my colleagues to support it and to support our libraries, to support the wise and judicious use of taxpayer dollars and prevent the current contract and other terms that interfere with people across Connecticut being able to enjoy full access to ebooks and audiobooks through libraries in this state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.